Good day, loomers, boomers, namey shoomers. Now, you may be asking yourself, I know you got a mind on you, and you're thinking a lot. Hey, why is this video coming out in April? Because I'm indecisive. That's the reason. Um, I have a difficult time formulating strong movie opinions. So in order to make them as accurate as possible, I decided to postpone my favorites of the year video until I could have seen all of the films at least twice, just so that I have a clearer picture of how the film will be looked at subsequently. Because a first viewing is extremely important, but I think a second viewing shows a lot about how a film will age. So at least it's not May. At least it's not May. I don't know what you want from me. So just want the first thing is that if you do want to check out any of the films that I do mention, that's a-okay because I will not be doing any spoilers on films. I will be touching briefly on aspects of the films, but none of it is a major spoiler or even really spoils part of the plot, I would say. So, if you want to check any of them out and you haven't seen them already, spoilers are not a concern. Um, Also, next up, Whoop, the power of editing. Right there is a nice little graphic of all the movies that I wanted to see from last year, but I have yet to see. I could, I do have the option that I could have seen a few of them before recording this, but I just want to get this done before the end of April, so I'm just doing it now when I have time. So if any of those films do end up becoming one of my favorites of the year, it will be updated on my letterbox, which is linked in the description, and I make sure to try to link my letterbox in general at the end of my any of my movie content stuff. My letterbox is a good way to keep up with what I've seen. Um, yeah, if your favorite movie of the year, or just generally if you're curious about what movies I've seen this year, my letterbox is a fairly good way to do it. I Most of the ones from earlier in the year aren't rated just because I started using Letterboxd late in the year and the movies were too absent from my memory, so it felt wrong to rate them. So yeah, I think I got all the movies from 2019 that I saw on Letterboxd so far. So if you're curious about that, you can check that out. Now I do believe that is everything. So hopefully you enjoy, and yeah, they're my opinions. They don't have to be yours. So if you liked these movies, that's great. If you didn't, that's also great. Different movie opinions are a very important thing. So let the list begin. Number 6, Little Women, directed by Greta Gerwig. I was really surprised at how much I enjoyed Little Women. I had mild interest in it before it got nominated for Oscars, and I was going to see it regardless because I made a point of seeing all the Best Picture nominations this year, which I think I probably will try to do in subsequent years. Um, but I had general interest in Little Women before that, and I was honestly surprised by how much I enjoyed it. It's just it's a domestic drama about a family, and I mean, sometimes it's what you need. Sometimes it can be done extremely well. The standouts for me are Florence Pugh and Timothy Chalamet. Saoirse Ronan gives an incredible performance as always, but Timothy Chalamet and Florence Pugh for me really sell it, especially all the scenes in Paris. I love all those. Um, it's great. It's wonderful. Like all the, I feel like some of the more knowable names in the supporting cast, like Emma Watson, Laura Dern, Meryl Streep, they don't overstay their welcome. I think they're nice addition, just kind of, they're more than cameos, but they play small enough of a role that they don't distract from the main story. So, um, I think that overall this film just works. It definitely, like, it's nothing huge. It's nothing groundbreaking, but I think it is just a delightfully told story, and it's well done. And the way Greta Gerwig adapted it and changed up a bit, like kept the same story but changed how she presented it, was great. I loved the way it was presented. I thought it was extremely well done. Number 5, Knives Out, directed by Rian Johnson. Knives Out is just a delightful time. I don't know what more to say. It's just a fun film. I struggle a lot to categorize comedies because they're just very much not exactly my genre. But this one is funny. It's good. Some of the political humor doesn't land quite as well, or at least won't age so well, in my opinion. But generally, it is funny. It's great. Um, Daniel Craig gives an incredible performance. Ana de Armas gives an incredible performance. Chris Evans, even Jamie Lee Curtis, and like some of the supporting cast, you really feel their power. Um, I wish the Academy Awards had a better way of categorizing ensemble casts, just because Knives Out is just stellar. Um, my only other kind of gripe with it is that there's some plot devices that I don't think really worked too well. I mean, they worked, but they just weren't in general the best. But it still is an incredible movie. Like, those are my only two main gripes with it. The political humor probably won't age, and some of the plot devices, but other than that, it's wonderful. It takes some of the elements from Rian Johnson's previous work, which I'm currently going through, and hopefully we'll make a video about, um, with kind of like the mystery and the thriller, um, and it just makes it wonderful. Like even on a rewatch, it's still. I mean, I had a decent amount of time, so like I knew generally what happened, but I forgot some of the specific order of the scenes, so that helped a bit. But it still works just as a great thriller in general. Like the mystery element is definitely there, but it works incredibly as a thriller. And it even plays around with both genres throughout the runtime. So, but Knives Out works incredibly well, and it is a delightful time. Number 4, Marriage Story, directed by Noah Baumbach. It really hurts putting Marriage Story this low on the list, but it's just how it goes. This year was an incredible year for films. Um, Marriage Story is accomplishing so much with its runtime, and it is relatively straightforward with just them going through a divorce, but it's so much more than that, and it's beautiful. Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson give amazing performances. Laura Dern was good. I personally don't exactly get the hype for her being like amazing. She was good, don't get me wrong, but like I don't quite get it. Maybe I just don't know anything. That's very true. But in general, Marriage Story is wonderful. The editing is like it's just inspired. It's wonderful. It's so well crafted and filled with a lot of love. Marriage Story is great. If I don't think I need to tell you that, it's on Netflix. Go watch it. Just you have no excuse, or just go rewatch it. It holds up pretty. It holds up pretty well on a rewatch. It can on a rewatch. At least for me, it felt just a bit like it dragged on a little bit. Could also have been the day I watched it, but it was great. It's great. It's really good. Number 3, The Lighthouse, directed by Robert Eggers. The Lighthouse is incredibly captivating. Um, it's beautiful what it can do with so little. Um, some of the just choices in general, it being in black and white, it having the shrinked aspect ratio really just enhances the atmosphere you're feeling. You really feel like you're with the characters on the island, and you feel as cramped as they do. And it just creates just a mild, like just enough uncomfortableness with how small it is to enhance it so beautifully. Just some of the way the shots are presented. It hurt that it was only The Lighthouse only got nominated for cinematography at the Oscars, but I mean the cinematography is great. The acting is also amazing. Willem Dafoe, of course, is great, but Robert Pattinson, I think, is so complimentary to Willem Dafoe that it just the movie doesn't work if you take out either of them. It's excellent. Um, and just the end is so hauntingly beautiful. It's one of the most, it sticks with me a lot, and it's beautiful, and it's just such a build up. It's great. The Lighthouse is wonderful. It does lean more into the horror, like horror psychological thriller, like ooh, it's getting kind of touching the edge of, I wouldn't call it a full-blown horror movie, but it's definitely on the scarier side, or at least the more uncomfortable side. But it is a wonderful film. It's amazing. Um, just the atmosphere, it just sucks you in and just keeps you there for its entire runtime, and it's great. Number 2, Parasite, directed by Bong Joon-ho. I don't think I need to be the one to tell you that this is an amazing film. I don't think you've heard a lot about it if you have spent any time on the internet, especially in February around Oscar time. There's not a lot left to say about it, just because, and that's not a bad thing. Like, people have just said that this film is amazing, and it's generally accepted now because it is great. The way it deals with its themes and presents them is wonderful. And I mean, it makes not exactly two compelling arguments, but it definitely makes it so that you see two different sides of a coin. And I mean, the film definitely presents you with one perspective, but the other perspective is shown, and I value that a lot. That it wasn't horribly one-sided. It was kind of, but it still showed the part it was criticizing. If you've seen any other of Bong Joon-ho's films, he definitely tackles class as a theme a lot. But I mean, if you know how to do it and you know how to keep reinventing it, it's great. I watched Snowpiercer, and that was the only Bong Joon-ho film I had seen going into this. And there are definitely parallels, but I think they both work extremely well. And I mean, Bong Joon-ho has just been able to build off of this theme so consistently, but still make it feel new, which I think is something extremely valuable. Like with Knives Out, I just wish there was a better way to categorize ensembles, because everybody's wonderful. Everybody's wonderful. On my second viewing, I definitely, like, it's fun. It's also a funny film. It's, especially the first half of it, quite funny. Everything about this film is great. It is kind of brutal that it swept at the Oscars just so that other things didn't win. But I mean, it deserved the awards. It did. But, like, this year is just so, or last year, I guess. Past tense. Last year just had so many phenomenal films, and I guess it's part of the reason why award shows don't exactly paint a full picture. But Parasite is excellent. If you have not checked it out, I believe it's on Hulu, so you can check that out. But it is delightful. It's wonderful. Number 1, The Farewell, directed by Lulu Wang. The Farewell has no right to be my favorite film of the year, and yet it still is. There's no reason why I should like it as much as I do. It's a domestic drama. I mean, similar to Little Women. It's a domestic drama, but its implications are beautiful. This was loosely based on Lulu Wang's personal experience with her grandmother, and I think that it just enhances the heartfeltness. It doesn't do anything specifically within the movie, but it just infuses it with this more heartfeltness that you can feel even if you didn't know that. And it's not thrown in your face. Like Lulu Wang specifically said, she wasn't too worried about exact accuracy, just painting the broad strokes. And I think that's valuable. When directors try to do biopics, I think sometimes they can get bogged down in the details, and kind of lose sight of the vision of the film in general, because film is very different than real life. That's why documentaries exist, to kind of bridge that gap. But films aren't meant to be exactly real life. But I think it's done beautifully. The acting is all excellent. There's not a weak performance in it. There's some that I would say just enhance others, but I think that all the performances overall are really well, especially the mother. Like, rewatching it, I watched it my fourth time. The third time I was kind of falling asleep though, so I've seen it 3 full times. I don't know, but the mother in this. I didn't kind of realize it on my first view, but she really helps with adding another perspective in it. Um, and just some of its general commentary on cultural differences, I think also is beautiful to see. It's wonderfully done. It's great. It's 100 minutes. It's only 100 minutes. Like, a decent amount of these films were um, shorter than others as compared to this year. But, like, making such a compelling story in under 2 hours is impressive. And it's beautifully done. Like, it's also comedic. It has definitely funny elements. Um, I don't know what to say. It's a film that I've just fallen in love with so deeply. Um, yeah, it's lovely. So those are my favorite films of the year. Um, Let me know what yours are if you want. Um, I definitely recommend checking them out if you have the ability. I know The Lighthouse and The Farewell are on Amazon Prime, Marriage Story is on Netflix, and Parasite's on Hulu. I don't believe Knives Out and Little Women are on any streaming services as of yet, so. But check out these films if you can. Hopefully you appreciated hearing my opinion on this. And better late than never, I guess. Thank you guys for watching, so. Ta-ta.